The rain pounded relentlessly on the windows of Grand Mercy Hospital in Seattle, and thunder shook the entire building. Inside, the lights flickered, drawing a nervous look from the night staff. Among them was Emily Ross, a seasoned nurse known for her calm and collected demeanor. She had been through her fair share of stormy nights in her years at Grand Mercy, but tonight felt different. Something hung in the air, like an unspoken warning dot. At that moment, Dr. Samuel Brooks, the hospital's night shift veterinarian, approached Emily's station. He was usually quick with a joke or a friendly smile, but tonight his face was serious. "Quite a storm out there, isn't it?" he remarked, his British accent contrasting with the northwestern drawl in the hospital's hallways. Emily nodded, offering him a tired smile. "Yeah, makes you wonder what else this night's got in store for us." Little did they know, her words would prove to be prophetic. As the clock struck midnight, the hospital's automatic doors slid open with a hiss, letting in a blast of wind and rain, and with it, something entirely unexpected stepped through. Heavy paws padded against the tile floor, followed by a low, rumbling growl that froze everyone in place. Emily's eyes widened as she saw what had caused the commotion. A massive lion, drenched and shaking, standing right in the middle of the hospital lobby. Panic erupted instantly. Patients screamed, visitors ran for cover, and the staff moved to secure their wards. But Emily stayed rooted to the spot, her gaze locked with the lion's eyes. There was something different about this animal. It wasn't behaving like a wild creature on the loose. It seemed purposeful. As the chaos swirled around them, Emily noticed something clutched gently in the lion's jaws, a small bundle wrapped in a tattered cloth. Her heartbeat quickened as the lion's intelligent eyes seemed to plead with her. Without a second thought, she stepped out from behind the nurse's station, ignoring her colleagues' frantic warnings. "Emily, what are you doing?" Dr. Brooks whispered, his voice tinged with fear. But Emily didn't hear him. She was drawn forward, raising her hands slowly in a calming gesture. "It's okay," she murmured, though she couldn't tell if she was speaking to the lion or herself. "I'm here to help." The lion watched her intently, then, to her amazement, gently placed the bundle on the floor and nudged it towards her. With trembling hands, Emily reached for the cloth. As she peeled it back, her breath caught in her throat. Nestled within was a creature unlike anything she'd ever seen, small, about the size of a house cat, with a curious mix of fur and scales. Its eyes, barely open, were a striking shade of amber. "Oh my God," Emily whispered. "What are you?" The lion let out a soft, mournful sound, as if answering her, and with that, it sank to the ground, exhausted. Security guards and animal control officers burst into the lobby, but Emily cradled the strange creature close to her chest, instinctively protecting it. She met Dr. Brooks's astonished gaze, her voice barely above a whisper. "Samuel, I think we're going to need your expertise on this one." They had no idea that this was just the beginning of a night that would change everything they thought they knew about the world. Dr. Samuel Brooks followed Emily into a small examination room. They had quickly converted into a makeshift animal care unit. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Emily held the strange creature carefully in her arms, and he could barely process its unusual appearance. It was as if nature itself had created a patchwork animal, blending elements of mammals and reptiles in ways that defied all known biology. What do you make of it, Samuel?" Emily's voice was quiet, her expression a mix of awe and concern. Samuel adjusted his glasses, leaning in to examine the creature more closely. "I'm not entirely sure," he admitted, running a hand through his hair. "It's some kind of hybrid, but I don't recognize any of these features. This goes beyond any known species, or even any theoretical combinations." As if sensing it was the subject of conversation, the creature let out a soft chirp, nuzzling closer to Emily. Despite its alien appearance, there was something undeniably endearing about it. Emily stroked its fur-scaled coat with gentle fingers. "What about the lion?" Emily asked, glancing towards the door. They could hear the commotion outside as animal control officers tried to secure the massive feline. "It was almost like it knew what it was doing, like it brought this creature here intentionally." Samuel shook his head, his disbelief evident. "It's a mystery. Lions don't just walk into hospitals carrying young, and they definitely don't act like this one did. It's unprecedented." Before he could say more, the door burst open. Carl Norris, the head of hospital security, entered, his face red with worry. "What the hell is going on here?" he demanded, his gaze falling on the strange creature in Emily's arms. "What is that thing?" "We're not sure yet," Emily replied calmly, tightening her hold on the creature. "But it needs help, and we're the only ones here who can provide it." Carl ran a hand over his balding head, visibly struggling to process the situation. This is way above our pay grade, folks. We need to call in the authorities. Get some experts in here." "We are the experts," Samuel interjected, a hint of steel in his voice. "At least, when it comes to animal care. And right now, this little one needs medical attention, not to be poked and prodded by government scientists." Carl looked like he wanted to argue, but the determination in Emily and Samuel's faces made him hesitate. "Fine," he grumbled. "But this stays under wraps for now. The last thing we need is a media circus." Just then, the sound of cameras clicking and reporters shouting questions filtered through the door. "Spoke too soon," Carl muttered, hurrying out to manage the growing crowd. Left alone once more, Emily and Samuel exchanged a worried glance. The creature stirred in Emily's arms, letting out a soft whimper that pulled at her heart. Samuel's professional instincts kicked in. "We need to examine it properly," he said. "Figure out what it needs." Emily nodded, gently placing the creature on the examination table. As she did, something fell from the folds of the blanket, a small metallic object that clattered to the floor. Samuel picked it up, his eyes widening as he examined the device. "It's advanced," he murmured, turning it over in his hands. "Far more than just a tracking chip. It might even be a key to unraveling this mystery." They stood in silence for a moment, the strange creature lying on the table between them, the odd device in Samuel's hand. Both felt the weight of the moment. They were standing on the edge of a discovery that could change everything they knew about the natural world. And somewhere in the hospital, the lion with intelligent eyes waited, as if knowing its part in this story was far from over. As the storm outside raged on, filling the night with endless waves of thunder and lightning, Emily and Dr. Brooks immersed themselves in their examination of the strange creature. It lay on the examination table, watching them with unblinking amber eyes that seemed to flicker with an almost human intelligence. Despite the creature's calm demeanor, they knew there was something extraordinary about it. Dr. Brooks observed its fur and scales with fascination, whispering to himself as he made notes. Its body temperature fluctuates in ways that don't match either mammalian or reptilian physiology. Blood samples show a cellular structure, almost as if someone took the building blocks of life and rearranged them. Emily, gently stroking the creature's fur, glanced at him. But who could have created something like this, and why? Before Dr. Brooks could respond, there was a soft knock at the door. Carl Norris stepped in, his face lined with worry. "We've got a problem," he announced in a low voice. "The media's all over this. Somehow footage of the lion entering the hospital got out, and it's spreading online. And that's not all. We're getting some strange visitors, people asking specific questions about unusual animals." Emily and Dr. Brooks exchanged worried glances. "What do they want?" Emily asked, a sense of dread creeping over her. "They're here for the lion," Carl replied, "and they seem to know about it. About that." He nodded toward the creature on the examination table. Dr. Brooks's expression turned serious. "We can't let them take it. Whatever this creature is, it needs protection and care, not to be treated like a lab experiment." Carl looked torn, but he nodded slowly. "Fine, but we're running out of time. I don't know how long I can hold them off." As Carl turned to leave, a soft blue light began to emanate from the strange device Dr. Brooks was holding. Both he and Emily stared as a holographic display flickered to life, casting a cascade of data and symbols across the room. "My God," Dr. Brooks breathed, leaning closer to the glowing symbols. It's like looking at the blueprint of life itself." Emily's heart raced as she turned to Carl. "Whatever's going on here, we need to keep this quiet, at least until we understand what we're dealing with. If the wrong people get their hands on this—" Carl nodded, his expression grim. "I'll do what I can, but you two need to figure this out fast." As Carl left to run interference, Emily and Dr. Brooks exchanged a look of mingled excitement and trepidation. They were venturing into uncharted territory, on the edge of a discovery that could redefine the limits of science and nature alike. Emily cradled the creature, which she'd started to think of as Rex, in her arms, marveling at its warmth and life. "Don't worry, little one," she murmured. "We'll keep you safe." But as she met Dr. Brooks's gaze, a flicker of doubt crossed her mind. In a night full of impossible things, was that a promise she could keep? As the holographic display continued to flicker, casting eerie shadows across the room, a long-buried memory surfaced in Emily's mind. 3 years ago, her brother, Dr. Jason Caldwell, had disappeared without a trace on a research expedition in South America. The official report claimed he'd likely been the victim of a tragic accident in the dense jungle, but Emily had never believed it. Her brother had been brilliant, cautious, and deeply passionate about conservation genetics. She turned to Dr. Brooks, her voice barely above a whisper. "Richard, there's something you should know about my brother, Jason. He was working on genetic preservation of endangered species before he disappeared." Dr. Brooks looked at her with growing interest. "And you think there might be a connection?" Emily nodded slowly. Jason believed in preserving the genetic diversity of species, but he was ethical. He would never create something like Rex. Dr. Brooks's face turned grim. Perhaps someone else used his work for less ethical purposes. Before they could say more, Rex let out a sudden, high-pitched cry. Its body began to glow faintly, and the fur and scales shimmered with an otherworldly light. "What's happening?" Emily gasped, rushing to Rex's side. Dr. Brooks held his breath, watching as the creature's form seemed to ripple and shift. The fur and scales transformed, flowing like water, until Rex took on the appearance of a small lion cub. "Incredible," Dr. Brooks whispered. "It's adaptive camouflage, but on a genetic level." Emily stared in awe at the now seemingly ordinary lion cub, but a closer look at its eyes revealed the same intelligent, amber gaze. This was no ordinary creature. It was a living marvel, a testament to the wonders and dangers of genetic science. As if on cue, the holographic display shifted, showing a map of a remote region in South America. Emily's heart skipped a beat as she recognized the location. It was the last place Jason had been seen before his disappearance. "That's where Jason vanished," she said, her voice trembling. This changes everything." Dr. Brooks looked at her, his face a mixture of excitement and concern. "Emily, this means your brother's disappearance might not have been an accident, and if we follow this trail, we may finally uncover the truth." Holding Rex close, Emily made a silent vow. Whatever it took, she would find out what had happened to her brother, and she would protect Rex from the shadowy forces that sought to claim it. But little did she know, forces beyond her control were already closing in, and her resolve would soon be tested in ways she could never have imagined. The early hours at St. Catherine's Memorial Hospital were usually quiet, filled only with the soft beeping of machines and the gentle murmurs of night staff. But tonight, a strange tension hung in the air. Emily paced the small examination room, her mind racing. The events of the night had left her exhausted, yet sleep was the furthest thing from her mind. Beside her, Dr. Brooks studied the holographic display, murmuring to himself as he scrawled notes. Rex, now in the form of a lion cub, dozed fitfully on a makeshift bed. The creature's tiny whimpers tugged at Emily's heart, making her wonder about the dreams that might haunt a being born of such advanced science. A soft knock on the door jolted them both from their thoughts. Carl Norris entered, his face shadowed with worry and fatigue. "We've got a situation," he announced without preamble. "There's a group of men in suits out front, flashing government credentials. They're demanding to see the unusual animal that was brought in tonight." Emily and Dr. Brooks exchanged uneasy glances. They had known this moment would come, but facing it was another matter entirely. "What kind of credentials?" Dr. Brooks asked, his voice tense. Carl shook his head. "I'm not sure, but something feels off. They don't look like any government agents I've ever seen." Emily's mind raced. The mysterious visitors, the strange technology, the link to her brother's disappearance, all of it pointed to something far beyond typical law enforcement. "We can't let them take Rex," she said firmly. "Whatever's going on, those men aren't here to help." Dr. Brooks nodded in agreement. "But how do we keep them away? We can't exactly hide a glowing, shape-shifting creature in a closet." As if in response to their dilemma, the holographic display changed suddenly, shifting to show detailed blueprints of St. Catherine's Memorial Hospital. Emily's eyes widened as she recognized a section of the map. "Look," she said, pointing. "There's an old network of maintenance tunnels beneath the hospital. They were sealed off years ago during renovations, but they might still be accessible. Carl's eyebrows shot up. You're thinking we should hide down there? That's insane. We'd be trapped. Not hide, Emily replied, her mind forming a plan. Escape. Those tunnels must lead somewhere. If we can find an exit. Carl still seemed skeptical, but Dr. Brooks was already gathering their few supplies. It's our best option, Carl. We can't fight these people, and we can't let them get their hands on Rex or this technology. With a resigned sigh, Carl nodded. All right. I'll do what I can to slow them down and give you a head start, but you'll need to move fast. As Carl left to create a diversion, Emily gently scooped up the sleeping Rex. The creature stirred, blinking open its amber eyes to meet her gaze with a surprising depth of understanding. It's okay, she murmured, though she wasn't sure if she was reassuring Rex or herself. We're going on an adventure. Dr. Brooks finished packing a small bag, including the mysterious device that had revealed so much, yet left so many questions unanswered. Ready? He asked, his voice tinged with both excitement and apprehension. Emily took a deep breath, thinking of her brother, the mysteries awaiting them, and the extraordinary creature in her arms. Ready. With one last glance around the room, which had become the center of so much wonder and discovery, they slipped out into the dimly lit corridor. Ahead lay the unknown, a labyrinth of forgotten tunnels, secrets of Rex's origins, and perhaps even the truth behind Jason Caldwell's disappearance. As they made their way toward the entrance to the maintenance tunnels, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that they were stepping into something much larger than themselves, a story that had begun years ago, long before her brother's ill-fated expedition, and now they were at the heart of it all. The maintenance tunnels beneath St. Catherine's were a maze of concrete and shadows, the air thick with the musty scent of disuse. Emily, Dr. Brooks, and Rex picked their way carefully through the darkness, guided only by the dim light of their phones and the occasional emergency bulb that had somehow survived years of neglect. Rex, still in lion cub form, padded silently beside them, its amber eyes glowing eerily in the dim light. Every so often, the creature would pause, its ears twitching as if listening to sounds beyond human perception. It's remarkable, Dr. Brooks whispered as they navigated a narrow passage. Even in this form, Rex's senses seem far beyond those of a normal lion cub. It's as if it's constantly adapting. Emily nodded, her mind racing with the implications. Do you think it understands what's happening? Why we're down here? Before Dr. Brooks could respond, a distant echo reached their ears, the sound of muffled voices and footsteps growing louder with every second. They're in the tunnels, Emily breathed, her heart pounding. How did they find us so quickly? Dr. Brooks' face turned grim in the dim light. I suspect our mysterious visitors have resources beyond what we imagined. We need to move faster. As if sensing the urgency, Rex let out a soft chirp and darted ahead, pausing at a junction to look back at them expectantly. I think it wants us to follow, Emily said, a note of wonder in her voice despite the tension in the air. With no better option, they followed Rex's lead, winding deeper into the labyrinth of tunnels. The sounds of pursuit grew fainter, but the weight of danger remained heavy on their minds. After what felt like hours, though it was likely only minutes, they emerged into a larger chamber. Ancient machinery loomed in the shadows, long since fallen into disrepair. But it was what lay at the center of the room that captured their attention. In the center of the chamber stood a circle of strange metallic pillars arranged in a perfect ring. Each pillar was etched with intricate designs that seemed to shift and change in the dim light, defying the eye's attempt to focus. What is this place? Emily whispered, her voice filled with awe and a touch of fear. Dr. Brooks approached one of the pillars cautiously, his scientific curiosity overriding his apprehension. I'm not sure, but these markings, they're like nothing I've ever seen. They almost look like DNA sequences. Emily's mind flashed back to the holographic displays they had seen earlier. Could this somehow be connected to the creature that had brought them here, to her brother's work? Rex padded into the center of the circle, dwarfed by the towering pillars. As it did so, a soft hum began to fill the air, growing louder with each passing moment. Emily, look! Dr. Brooks exclaimed, pointing to the device they had brought with them. It was glowing with the same ethereal light as the pillars, pulsing in rhythm with the hum. Before they could react further, Rex began to transform once again. This time, the change was far more dramatic. The creature's body seemed to dissolve into pure light, swirling and reforming in a mesmerizing display of colors and shapes. When the light faded, Rex stood before them in a form that defied explanation, part lion, part bird, and part something entirely otherworldly. Its amber eyes, now set in a face that shifted between feline and avian features, regarded them with unmistakable intelligence. And then, to their utter astonishment, it spoke. "Thank you for your protection," Rex said, its voice a harmonious blend of animal sounds and human speech. "But I'm afraid our journey together is only beginning." Emily and Dr. Brooks stood frozen, their minds struggling to process what they were witnessing. In that moment, they realized that the mystery of Rex's origins was far more complex and extraordinary than they could have ever imagined. As the hum of the pillars reached a crescendo, bathing the chamber in pulsating light, Emily felt a strange calm settle over her. They were standing on the threshold of something monumental, a discovery that would shake the foundations of science and redefine their place in the natural world. And somewhere, deep in the South American jungle, lay the key to unlocking it all. The chamber beneath St. Catherine's Memorial Hospital hummed with energy, the air thick with the anticipation of revelations. Emily and Dr. Brooks stood transfixed, eyes locked on the extraordinary creature before them. Rex, now transformed into something beyond their wildest dreams, looked down at them with an expression that seemed almost wise. Emily's voice trembled. What are you?" Rex's form shimmered slightly, as if struggling to maintain its shape. "I am the result of a project that spans time and space," it replied, its voice a mix of sounds that seemed both familiar and otherworldly. "A bridge between what was, what is, and what could be." Dr. Brooks, trying to process the implications, took a step closer. "Are you saying you're not from Earth?" The creature let out a sound that could almost be mistaken for laughter. "Not exactly," Rex answered. "I am of Earth, but not only of Earth. My creators sought to combine the genetic legacy of this planet with possibilities from beyond." Emily's heart skipped a beat. "My brother, Jason Caldwell, was he involved in your creation?" Rex's amber eyes softened. Jason Caldwell was a key figure in the early stages of the project. His work on preserving endangered species DNA was the foundation upon which I was built. Emily felt a flicker of hope. If her brother had played a part in creating this being, could it mean he was still out there? But before she could ask more, a distant echo reached their ears, the unmistakable sound of voices and footsteps echoing through the tunnels. "They're coming," Dr. Brooks muttered, his voice tense. "We need to move." Rex nodded, its form rippling again. "Yes, but not through the tunnels. There is another way, a path your brother discovered." With that, Rex turned toward the circle of pillars. As if responding to its presence, the pillars began to glow, illuminating the chamber with an intense blue light. The air vibrated, and the space between the pillars began to shimmer. Emily's eyes widened. "Is that a portal?" "To the source," Rex said, "to the place where I was created, and where the answers you seek await." The voices in the tunnels were getting louder, accompanied by the sound of hurried footsteps. They were almost out of time. Dr. Brooks grabbed Emily's arm. "Emily, we don't know where this leads. It could be incredibly dangerous." She looked into his eyes, seeing her own mix of fear and determination mirrored in his gaze. "We don't have a choice, Richard. Besides," she added with a hint of a smile, "aren't you curious?" Before he could respond, Rex let out a soft, warning chirp. The shimmering space between the pillars was stabilizing, forming what looked like a window into another world, a lush green jungle bathed in a strange purple light. "Now," Rex urged. "We must go now." Taking a deep breath, Emily stepped forward, Dr. Brooks right beside her. Just as they reached the threshold, the door to the chamber burst open. A group of men in dark suits rushed in, their faces a mixture of shock and determination. "Stop!" one of them shouted, reaching for a device on his belt. But it was too late. With Rex by their side, Emily and Dr. Brooks stepped through the portal. The world around them dissolved into a kaleidoscope of light and sound. For a moment, they were everywhere and nowhere at once, surrounded by an overwhelming sensation of color and warmth. Then, with a rush of humid air, they were through. Emily stumbled, her feet sinking into soft, damp soil. As her vision cleared, she found herself standing in a clearing, surrounded by towering trees, unlike any she had ever seen. The air was thick with the scent of unfamiliar flowers, and the sounds of exotic birds filled the canopy above. Beside her, Dr. Brooks looked around, wide-eyed. "My God," he whispered. Where are we?" Rex, now back in its smaller form, padded forward. "Welcome," it said, "to the place where past and future collide, the birthplace of a new era in evolution." Emily's gaze was drawn to a structure in the distance. Rising from the jungle floor was a sleek, futuristic building that seemed to blend seamlessly with the landscape, and above its entrance was a name that made her heart skip a beat: the Caldwell Institute for Evolutionary Advancement. Her brother's legacy, it seemed, was grander and far more complex than she could have ever imagined. As they approached the Caldwell Institute, Emily's heart pounded with a mix of awe, excitement, and trepidation. The building's sleek lines and organic curves blended seamlessly with the jungle, like it was both a part of and apart from the natural world. The walls seemed alive, pulsing faintly with bioluminescent patterns that echoed the heartbeat of the surrounding rainforest. Dr. Brooks' eyes were wide with wonder. "This place, it's like something out of science fiction," he murmured, taking in the seamless integration of nature and technology. Rex trotted ahead, looking more animated than Emily had ever seen it. "This is where it all began," it said, in that melodic, layered voice. "Your brother's vision took root here and blossomed into something beyond his wildest dreams." As they reached the main entrance, a panel beside the door lit up, casting a soft blue glow over them. A computerized voice, eerily familiar, filled the air. "Welcome to the Caldwell Institute. Please provide biometric identification for entry." Emily took a shaky breath and placed her hand on the panel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft chime, the door slid open. "Identity confirmed," the voice said. "Welcome home, sister of the founder." A surge of emotion washed over Emily as she blinked back tears. Even after all this time, her brother had ensured she'd have access to his work. It was a bittersweet reminder of their bond and all the time that had passed since he vanished. As they entered, they found themselves in a vast atrium filled with holographic displays, strange pulsating plants, and scientists of various species working side by side. The air was thick with the scent of exotic flowers and a low hum of energy that seemed to pulse through the floor. "This is incredible," Dr. Brooks whispered, his gaze darting from one marvel to the next. "The advancements here, they're decades, maybe even centuries ahead of anything we know." Rex moved to the center of the room, its form shimmering as it interfaced with the building's systems. Dr. Jason Caldwell began with a simple goal: to preserve Earth's vanishing biodiversity, Rex explained. But as his work progressed, he stumbled upon something far greater, a way not just to preserve life but to evolve it. Holographic images sprang to life around them, illustrating the progression of Jason's work. Emily watched in awe as years of research unfolded before her eyes, culminating in the creation of creatures like Rex, beings that could adapt and evolve in real time, combining the genetic legacy of countless species. "But why?" Emily's voice was thick with emotion. "Why did he disappear? Why keep all of this a secret?" Rex's amber eyes met hers, filled with an ancient understanding. Because he realized the magnitude of his discovery, the power to reshape life itself. In the wrong hands, it could be catastrophic. As if triggered by Rex's words, a new hologram appeared, showing Jason in his lab, looking older and more careworn than she remembered. His recorded voice filled the atrium. "If you're seeing this, Emily, it means you finally found your way here. I'm sorry for the secrecy, for the pain I must have caused you. But what we've created here, it's bigger than any one person. It's the next step in evolution, a way to ensure life's survival in a changing universe." Emily reached out, her fingers passing through the hologram. "Oh, Jason," she whispered, "what have you done?" Just then, alarms blared throughout the facility. Rex tensed, its eyes darting toward the entrance. "They've followed us," it warned, "the ones who seek to control this power for their own ends." Dr. Brooks rushed to a nearby console, fingers flying over the holographic interface. "It looks like they've breached the outer perimeter. We don't have much time." Emily's mind raced. They had come so far and discovered so much, but now it felt like everything was slipping away. "What do we do?" she asked, looking between Dr. Brooks and Rex. Rex's form grew larger, more imposing. "We must protect the legacy of Jason Caldwell. His work is too important to fall into the wrong hands." As if in response, another hologram of Jason appeared. "Emily, if you're seeing this, It means the Institute is under threat. There's a failsafe, a way to ensure that our work remains safe until the world is ready for it. The hologram gestured, and a hidden panel in the wall slid open, revealing a complex device pulsing with an otherworldly energy. "This is the Evolutionary Codex," the recording continued. "It contains the sum total of our research, including the key to Rex's unique abilities. If activated, it will scatter our work across time and space, hidden in the very fabric of evolution itself." Emily's heart pounded as she stepped toward the device. "But if we do that, all of this will be lost. Jason's work, his legacy." "Not lost," Rex said softly. "Safeguarded, waiting to be rediscovered when humanity is ready to wield such power responsibly." Explosions echoed from somewhere deeper in the facility. Dr. Brooks looked at Emily, his face etched with concern. "It's your decision, Emily. This was your brother's life's work. What do you want to do?" She closed her eyes, thinking of Jason, of the wonders they had discovered, and the potential for both miracles and catastrophes. When she opened her eyes, her gaze was resolute. "We activate the Codex. We protect the future by preserving the past." Rex nodded, a look of approval in its ever-changing eyes. "A wise choice. But know this, activating the Codex will have consequences. The dispersion of this knowledge will ripple across time. You may find that the world you return to is not quite the same as the one you left." Taking a deep breath, Emily placed her hand on the Evolutionary Codex. The device was warm, almost alive, under her touch. "Whatever changes come," she said, looking at Dr. Brooks and Rex, "we'll face them together." As the sounds of intruders grew closer, Emily pressed the activation sequence. The Codex began to pulse with an intense light, filling the room with a swirling vortex of energy. "It's working!" Dr. Brooks shouted over the growing roar. "The data is being dispersed." Rex's form shimmered and began to fade. "Thank you, Emily Caldwell," it said, its voice growing distant. "You have ensured that life will find a way across all of time and space." The energy reached a crescendo, and Emily felt a strange tugging sensation, as if reality itself was shifting around them. The last thing she saw before the world dissolved into light was her brother's proud smile captured in the hologram. Then, in a flash of blinding radiance, the Caldwell Institute, Rex, and all the wonders and dangers it contained vanished from the face of the earth, scattered across the cosmic tapestry of evolution, waiting to be rediscovered. The blinding light faded, and Emily found herself standing in the middle of a bustling street. The familiar Chicago skyline stretched out before her, but something was different. The air was cleaner, the vehicles gliding by seemed almost silent, and the architecture was more streamlined, futuristic, yet familiar. Next to her, Dr. Brooks looked equally bewildered. "Did it work?" Emily asked, her voice barely above a whisper, feeling like she hadn't spoken in ages. Dr. Brooks nodded slowly, taking in their surroundings. "It seems so, but this place feels altered." They turned toward a nearby news kiosk, where holographic headlines floated above the stand. Emily's eyes widened as she read, "Global climate crisis averted. Breakthrough in adaptive agriculture saves millions. Interspecies communication. Scientists develop universal translator for animal languages. And human longevity reaches new heights." Dr. Brooks let out a low whistle. "It seems the dispersal of the Evolutionary Codex has already had an impact. These advancements, they're astounding." Emily nodded, a mixture of awe and apprehension filling her. "But at what cost? How much has changed? Are we even the same people we were before?" Before Dr. Brooks could respond, a familiar voice called out from across the street. "Emily! Dr. Brooks! There you are!" They turned to see Carl, their trusted hospital security chief, jogging toward them, looking as though he hadn't aged a day. Amidst the subtle futuristic vibe around him, he seemed almost out of place. "Carl?" Emily's voice was filled with both relief and confusion. "You remember us?" Carl looked at them quizzically. "Of course. I remember you. Are you feeling all right? You both disappeared from the hospital days ago, right after that strange incident with the lion. We were all worried sick." Emily and Dr. Brooks exchanged glances, trying to make sense of it all. It seemed that while the world around them had transformed in countless ways, some aspects of their immediate past remained intact, at least from Carl's perspective. "We're fine, Carl. Dr. Brooks replied carefully. Just a bit disoriented. It's been an eventful few days. Carl nodded sympathetically. I can imagine. Look, why don't you both come back to the hospital? There's someone there who's been waiting to see you. As they followed Carl through the strangely familiar yet altered streets of Chicago, Emily's mind raced with questions. Who could be waiting for them, and how much of their incredible journey would they be able to share? When they arrived at the hospital, they were greeted by a place transformed into a marvel of modern medicine. Holographic displays showed real-time patient data, and sleek robots glided silently through the halls, assisting human staff. Carl led them to a private room on the top floor. The door slid open, and Emily's heart nearly stopped. There, sitting up in bed and looking older but very much alive, was her brother, Jason Caldwell. "Hello, little sister," he said with a warm smile. "I think it's time we had a talk about the future and the past." Overwhelmed, Emily rushed forward, embracing him. The years of separation melted away in an instant, but the weight of unanswered questions pressed down on her. "How is this possible?" she asked, pulling back to look at him. "We saw your recordings. We thought you were—" Jason smiled, a familiar spark of mischief in his eyes. "Gone? In a way I was, but the activation of the Codex changed more than just the world around us. It rewrote parts of history itself." Dr. Brooks, who had been watching the reunion with a mix of happiness and scientific curiosity, stepped forward. "The ripple effect," he mused. "The dispersal of advanced evolutionary knowledge across time and space must have accelerated certain discoveries and altered certain events." Jason nodded. "Exactly. In this new timeline, my disappearance was actually a deep undercover mission to protect the secrets of the Codex. I've been working behind the scenes all this time, guiding the integration of our discoveries into society." Emily's mind reeled at the implications. "But if history has changed, why do we remember the old timeline? And why does Carl remember us disappearing just days ago?" Jason explained, "The human mind is a remarkable thing. Those closest to the event, those connected to the activation of the Codex, retain memories of both timelines. It's a safeguard in a way, ensuring that someone remembers the truth of what happened." As they spoke, a soft chime sounded from a device on Jason's wrist. He glanced at it, his expression growing serious. "We don't have much time. There are still those who seek to control the power of accelerated evolution for their own ends." Emily felt a chill run down her spine. "So, what's our next step?" Jason stood, revealing that he was far from the frail patient they had initially perceived. "To the new Caldwell Institute," he said with a grin. "It's time you saw what your actions have wrought." As they prepared to leave, Emily couldn't shake a nagging thought. "Jason," she said hesitantly, "what about Rex? Did the Codex erase them from existence?" Jason's expression softened. "Rex was more than just a creation, Emily. In many ways, they were the embodiment of the Codex itself. Dispersed across time and space, yes, but not gone." Before he could finish, a familiar chirping sound filled the room. From the shadows, a small creature emerged, part feline, part bird, its form shimmering with barely contained energy. "Hello, old friends," Rex said, its amber eyes twinkling with ancient wisdom. "Our journey, it seems, is far from over." As Emily knelt to greet their old companion, she felt a surge of hope and excitement. The world had changed in ways she was only beginning to understand, but with her brother returned, Dr. Brooks's scientific brilliance, and Rex's otherworldly guidance, she knew they were equipped to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they stepped out into a world transformed by the power of evolution itself, a world where the boundaries between past, present, and future had become wonderfully, terrifyingly blurred. The journey to the new Caldwell Institute was surreal. As they moved through the transformed landscape of Chicago, Emily marveled at how seamlessly nature and technology coexisted. Buildings seemed alive, with walls covered in lush, air-purifying plants that breathed with the rhythm of the city. Vehicles glided by on roads embedded with invisible solar cells, and the streets were illuminated by soft, bioluminescent lights that seemed to pulse in harmony with the surroundings. "This is incredible," she murmured, watching a flock of birds with shimmering, iridescent feathers fly overhead. They glowed softly in the twilight, casting patterns across the sky. "All of this, from the dispersal of the Codex?" she asked, turning to Jason. Jason nodded, a quiet pride in his expression. The Codex held more than just genetic data. It unlocked the potential to understand and harness the interconnectedness of all life. Once that knowledge began seeping into various fields of study, advancements came quickly. As they left the urban landscape behind, the city gave way to a managed wilderness. A futuristic structure emerged in the distance, a seamless blend of organic architecture and advanced technology. It appeared to grow directly from the earth, its walls glowing with gentle bioluminescent patterns that matched the colors of the surrounding flora. "Welcome," Jason said, gesturing with a flourish, "to the Caldwell Institute for Evolutionary Harmony." The awe-inspiring building loomed before them as they approached. The entrance led into a vast atrium, alive with innovation and life. Holographic displays floated in mid-air, showcasing data and breakthroughs. Unique hybrid plants filled the space, some seemingly engineered for purposes beyond simple decoration. Emily and Dr. Brooks gasped, taking in the wonders around them. "Is that a dolphin?" Dr. Brooks stammered, pointing to a nearby tank. Inside, a dolphin fitted with a neural interface floated serenely, interacting with a researcher through intricate hand signals and chirps. "Indeed," Jason said, smiling. "That's Ambassador Coral, one of our experts in marine ecosystem restoration. Here at the Institute, we're working alongside scientists from all species." The full scale of the Codex's impact became clearer as they moved through the facility. There were entire wings dedicated to interspecies communication, climate-resilient agriculture, and astonishing medical breakthroughs that bordered on miraculous. They passed a ward where researchers worked on treatments that targeted specific genetic traits, potentially extending life by decades. "This is all incredible," Emily said, feeling a mix of wonder and responsibility. "But there must be challenges too. You mentioned there are still people who might misuse this power." Jason's expression grew somber. "There are indeed. While the Codex has led to tremendous progress, it has also created new forms of conflict. Some believe humanity should control the course of evolution, deciding which species thrive. Others, afraid of change, want to undo everything the Codex has wrought." Emily felt a surge of determination. "So what can we do to protect this? How do we keep this power from falling into the wrong hands?" Jason led them to a secure room at the heart of the Institute. Inside, a familiar device pulsed gently with energy, a smaller version of the original Codex. "This is the Nexus," he explained. "It lets us monitor the ongoing effects of the Codex's dispersal and, when necessary, make subtle adjustments to maintain balance." Dr. Brooks' eyes lit up with excitement. "So we can guide the course of evolution on a global scale?" "Within limits," Jason cautioned. "Our goal is harmony, not control. We're here to ensure that all life can adapt and thrive amidst rapid change." As Emily approached the Nexus, she felt a deep, resonating energy. She reached out and images began flashing through her mind. Ecosystems in motion, species adapting to shifts in their environment, and the intricate web of life pulsing with renewed vitality. "It's beautiful," she whispered, feeling an immense sense of awe and responsibility. Rex, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. "This is the legacy of your choice, Emily. A world where the lines between species, between past and future, are fluid. A world with endless possibilities." Before they could process it further, an alarm blared through the Institute. Jason's face darkened as he moved swiftly to a nearby console. "We have a problem," he said grimly. "A rogue faction has managed to access fragments of the Codex. They're attempting to create a localized evolutionary surge in the Amazon rainforest." Emily exchanged a determined glance with Dr. Brooks and Rex. Their journey had brought them here, to this very moment, where they had the chance to safeguard the future of life itself. "What's our plan?" she asked, ready for action. Jason's eyes held a mixture of pride and resolve. "We go to the Amazon. We restore balance. We ensure evolution remains a force for harmony, not destruction." As they gathered their supplies, Emily felt a profound sense of purpose. Activating the Codex had not been the end, but the beginning of something far greater. Together, they were guardians of a new era, tasked with guiding the intricate dance of life itself. The Amazon awaited them, and with it, the next chapter of their incredible journey. The future, with all its wonders and perils, lay just ahead. The Amazon rainforest lay before them, vibrant yet alien in a way Emily had never imagined. The towering trees pulsed with faint, bioluminescent patterns, as if breathing in time with the heartbeat of the earth. Animals darted through the underbrush, their forms mutated and enhanced by an unfamiliar force, a premature evolutionary surge from the fragments of the codex. "Look at this," Dr. Brooks murmured, awestruck. The forest seemed to have been reshaped by accelerated evolution, teeming with hybrid species, birds with reptilian scales, mammals with iridescent feathers. The sheer magnitude of transformation stunned him. "It's already begun," Jason said, checking a holographic display from his wrist device. "The rogue faction has set up a base deeper in the forest. They're using their own version of the codex, recklessly accelerating evolution without considering the broader ecosystem." Rex, its form shifting to better blend into the dense foliage, growled softly. "Such a blatant manipulation of life's code. It's dangerous. The balance is fragile here." Emily felt a surge of determination as she looked out at the transformed rainforest. This was why they had come, to protect the delicate balance of life, ensuring the power of the codex was used with wisdom. "What's the plan?" she asked, ready for action. Jason outlined their strategy as they moved cautiously into the forest. "We'll approach their base under the cover of the foliage. Rex can help camouflage us. Once we reach the facility, we'll need to neutralize their makeshift codex and contain the evolutionary surge before it spreads beyond control." They advanced through the rainforest, which seemed to shift and adapt as they moved. Emily felt an overwhelming connection to the pulse of life around her. The plants, animals, even the soil itself seemed to respond to their presence. "It's beautiful," she whispered, running her fingers over a flower that emitted a soft, melodic hum. But then, a chill ran down her spine. "It's also terrifying. How can we hope to control this?" Dr. Brooks checked his device, shaking his head. "The rate of change is exponential. If we don't stop this soon, the effects could ripple across the entire planet." As they neared the rogue faction's base, Rex suddenly tensed, a low growl rumbling from deep within. "We're not alone," it warned. "They're waiting for us." From the shadows of the forest, a group of figures emerged. Humans, but altered. They possessed heightened senses and enhanced abilities, their eyes glinting with a predatory awareness. At their center stood a woman with piercing green eyes and skin that shimmered faintly with a chlorophyll-like hue. "Welcome," she said, her voice reverberating with otherworldly resonance. "I've been expecting you." Jason stepped forward, his face set in determination. "Dr. Elena Varick, I presume. Your experiments here are reckless. You're endangering the entire ecosystem." Dr. Varick's expression turned to a sly smile. "Risk? No, this is the next stage of evolution. Humanity is no longer bound by the limits of natural selection. We are the architects now, shaping life itself." "That's not evolution," Emily interjected, her voice strong and unwavering. "It's manipulation. Evolution is about finding balance in the web of life, not domination." Dr. Varick's gaze shifted to Emily with curiosity. "Ah, the Caldwell who activated the original codex. Don't you feel the pull of this power? The chance to remake the world as we desire?" For a brief moment, Emily felt the temptation, the idea that she could fix everything, reshape the world to her vision. But then she remembered Rex, the wonders they had seen, and the delicate balance of life. "Power without wisdom leads to ruin," she said. "What you're doing isn't evolution, it's chaos." Dr. Varick's expression hardened. "Then you leave us no choice. We will not allow you to stand in the way of humanity's ascension." With a snap of her fingers, her followers charged, the forest responding to their heightened abilities. Vines sprang to life, animals took to the air, and plants grew thorny and dense, all part of a surreal battle where nature itself seemed to be a weapon. The conflict was unlike anything Emily could have imagined. Rex shifted forms rapidly, adapting to counter the enhanced abilities of Dr. Varick's followers. Dr. Brooks used his scientific acumen to identify and disrupt patterns in the evolutionary energy, while Jason tapped into the Codex's wisdom, stabilizing chaotic bursts of growth and mutation that rippled through the forest. Emily, at the center of it all, felt the heartbeat of the rainforest around her. She leapt over twisting vines and ducked under glowing branches, feeling as if she was part of the very life force she was protecting. In that moment, she understood her role, not to control evolution, but to guide it, to be a bridge between the past and future. Drawing on an instinct she barely understood, Emily reached out to the makeshift codex Dr. Varick had created. Instead of shutting it down, she connected with it, channeling its energy into a balanced, controlled surge of evolution. The chaos around them began to ease as plants returned to stable forms and animals found their natural balance. Even Dr. Varick's enhanced followers felt the change, their heightened abilities settling into a harmonious state. As the dust settled, Dr. Varick stared at Emily, a mixture of awe and defeat in her gaze. How did you do that?" Emily felt the pulse of life calming around her. "The Codex isn't meant to impose our will on nature," she said. "It's meant to work in harmony with life, respecting its rhythms." For the first time, Dr. Varick's face softened, the edge of fanaticism fading. She looked down, seemingly realizing the weight of what she had unleashed. The rogue faction, stunned and uncertain, began retreating into the forest, their battle quelled by a force they couldn't fully grasp. Jason placed a hand on Emily's shoulder, his expression one of pride and relief. "You did it. You restored balance." Rex, shifting back to its familiar form, nodded with approval. "The legacy of the Codex is safe, thanks to you, Emily." The three of them stood in silence, the rainforest gradually returning to its natural state. In that moment, they knew their journey wasn't over. There would always be challenges and choices that required both wisdom and restraint. But together, they had proven that evolution's true strength lay not in control, but in harmony. Back at the edge of the forest, the evening sky painted the Amazon canopy in hues of gold and crimson, as the final remnants of Dr. Varick's faction disappeared into the shadows. Emily, Jason, Dr. Brooks, and Rex gathered in a small clearing, taking in the stillness of the rainforest around them. They had won this battle, but the journey ahead felt just as daunting. Rex, perched on a fallen log, shifted its form slightly, its eyes gleaming with an ancient intelligence. "The Codex has been protected, but this is just the beginning. As long as the power to manipulate life exists, there will be those who seek it for their own ends." Emily nodded. She understood now that the Codex wasn't just a scientific marvel. It was a gateway to something profound, a shared responsibility for the future of all life. She turned to Dr. Brooks and Jason, determination evident in her gaze. "We can't simply guard the Codex in secret anymore. The knowledge we've gained, the experiences we've had, they have to be shared, but responsibly. We have to teach others the importance of balance." Dr. Brooks, who had seen so much of life from the detached lens of science, now looked at the world through a new lens. "Agreed," he said thoughtfully. "If the Codex is kept in the shadows, it'll only breed secrecy and ambition. But if we foster a community of guardians, people committed to understanding evolution as a force for harmony, maybe that's the answer." Jason smiled, his expression softened with a renewed sense of purpose. "Then that's our new mission, building a community of guardians, not controllers. If we can guide the Codex's legacy to be one of cooperation, we might avoid the dangers of unchecked ambition." As night descended, Rex's form glowed softly in the darkness. "The world you return to may be different than the one you left," it reminded them. "Every step taken with the Codex, every choice, has rippled across time and space. Some things may have changed, but you'll be equipped to navigate this new world." Together, they journeyed back through the rainforest, navigating paths and avoiding factions still loyal to Dr. Varick's ideals. It felt like hours before they finally reached the edge of the forest, where their transport awaited them. The air around them shimmered faintly, as though the Codex itself was preparing them for what lay ahead. Stepping into the portal, they were engulfed by a flash of light, a sense of time and space folding around them, each ripple carrying a promise of the world they were creating. Then, in an instant, the rainforest vanished, replaced by the familiar cityscape of Chicago. But something was different. They stood in a city transformed. Solar-powered vehicles silently zipped through the streets, towering buildings adorned with lush vertical gardens, and people carrying small devices that pulsed with a soft blue light, tools for communicating with other species, it seemed. Humanity had evolved to coexist with nature, to find common ground in the harmony they had worked to protect. Emily felt a wave of relief mixed with awe. They had succeeded not only in protecting the Codex, but also in reshaping society's relationship with nature. It was a strange new world, yet it felt like the future she had always dreamed of. Their guide, a man with a badge that read Guardian Council, approached them. He recognized Rex instantly, bowing his head in reverence before speaking. "Welcome back, we've been expecting you." The Guardian Council, as they soon learned, was a network of scientists, thinkers, and visionaries dedicated to preserving and understanding the Codex's influence. Emily, Jason, Dr. Brooks, and Rex were celebrated as the founding guardians, leaders in a movement they had inspired. That night, standing before an audience of new guardians, Emily addressed them with a heart full of hope. The Codex has given us the knowledge to change our world, but with that power comes responsibility. Let us use it not to control, but to guide, to create a future where evolution means growth for all life. A cheer erupted from the crowd, and Emily, Jason, Dr. Brooks, and Rex stood together, knowing they had set a path forward for generations. The Codex was safe, and its legacy of balance would live on. In the weeks that followed, Emily took on her role as a leader within the Guardian Council. Together with Jason, Dr. Brooks, and Rex, they developed programs to educate and inspire others, to promote a world where the natural world and humanity could thrive together. Rex, their faithful companion and a symbol of all they had fought for, remained by their side, guiding them with a wisdom beyond human comprehension. They had discovered that life's true strength lay not in power, but in connection. Their journey had brought them full circle, from protecting the Codex to nurturing its legacy. In a world that had evolved to embrace life's diversity, they knew they had fulfilled their mission, and somewhere in the heart of the Amazon, the Codex pulsed with the beat of evolution, waiting for the day when new guardians would take up its cause, continuing the dance of life that Emily, Jason, and the others had fought so hard to protect. Dear listeners, we hope you've been captivated by Anna's extraordinary journey through St. Mary Hospital. This tale of mystery and discovery reveals not only the fine line between science and the unknown, but also the courage and determination in the human spirit. If Anna and Rex's steps into the unknown sparked a sense of wonder in you, if they stirred a feeling of something greater beyond what we know, we invite you to join us in our next adventure. Subscribe to our channel to make sure you don't miss these journeys. Each one follows the traces left by those brave enough to confront the unknown. If this story touched your heart, show your support with a like and share your thoughts and feelings in the comments below. Mysteries of the Delta offers a unique message to each listener, and we're thrilled to hear what this journey meant to you.